Hello, Bulldog fans. Welcome to Bulldog Update. I'm Mike Gore. I'm joined today by UNC Asheville head volleyball coach Frederico Santos. Frederico, thanks so much for coming with us today and everything. This is your third year as head coach of the volleyball team, but this is not your third year at UNC Asheville. Tell us about your background as far as coming to UNC Asheville.
Well, gosh, first of all, thank you for having me. It's great to be here. Well, the whole process started a long time ago, 13 years ago. I was playing professionally in Europe, and I got injured, and so I started to decide what the next point in my career would be. And coaching was always kind of in the background. I always had a passion for it, and UNCA was one of the first places I applied.
And you became an assistant coach. You were here for 2000, 2008. Then you went down to Barry as a head coach for 3 years before coming back here and stuff. And going back to your assistant coaching days under Julie Torbett, the all-time winningest coach in the Big South Conference. Fred, just tell us about your years as an assistant. So what are some of your memories?
Oh gosh, there's so many. I mean, the biggest one I would say was the 2001 to 2002 year when we, we went 7-21 the year before, and I think had the biggest turnaround and
26-8 in 2000.
26-8 in 2002, and having a regular season championship. I think that'll probably stand out as just, it was just two completely opposite seasons. You went from the bottom of everything to the top of everything in 1 year. So
that was something, and of course Leslie Whitfield led the nation in digs and as a libero, and I know that meant a lot to you because she started out as a walk-on, but by her senior year she's leading the nation and was featured in Sports Illustrated.
Yeah, I mean, Leslie was just one of those amazing athletes. Had it in her, but I think we were able to really maximize her efforts and actually really define a role for her. Which was extremely important in her development.
Now, Fred, before we talk about this year's team and you coming back to UNC Asheville, you've coached all over the world, not just the United States. You've coached all over the world. You're a native of Brazil. Your father was a legendary volleyball coach down there in Brazil. You've also coached in Iceland. So let me start with the Iceland angle first and stuff. What's it like to coach in Iceland?
Well, it's not much different than anywhere else in the world except for the landscape. I think, they have athletes just like we do. Obviously a smaller pool because at the time there's only 200,000 people living in the island total. A lot of great athletes. The language barrier was a little bit, difficult to, some people spoke English, some people understood. I think the game is universal, but still, the language was a little bit of kind of a barrier, but it was great. We started with 10 players. By the end of my first year there were 25 people that wanted to come out and be a part of kind of this, I wouldn't say revolution, but kind of this new look as kind of, hey, we got a foreign coach, he's doing a great job, come out, and the club really supported that very well there. So, by the end of it, I almost had 2 full squads to deal with. So that was amazing right there in itself.
Tell us about your father, who's had an amazing career both in Brazil and the United States.
My dad has actually been the biggest influence in this career for me. We talk constantly. He's coached many Olympians in Brazil on the men's and women's side. He's coached professionally. He's a national champion in Brazil. And I really was able to follow that very closely, kind of grow up in that environment and talk to Olympians and national players. Like that is not something that everybody gets to do, but for me to grow up in that environment and kind of see that high level was a huge influence in my career. After
8 years as an assistant under Julie, you decided to become a head coach, and you got a job at Barry University down in Miami, Florida, in a very strong Division II league. And what was that process going from assistant coach to head coach? And I guess there's a few differences, aren't there?
Well, yes, there is. I mean, the main one is obviously, I think you have to deal more with the day-to-day operations of your program because it's given to you, and you're responsible for everything. As an assistant coach, you have responsibilities more with the players. With head coaching, it's everything. You have to encompass the whole experience. You have to be able to talk to administrators. You have to be able to talk to commissioners. It's just a wider world then the assistant coaching is kind of really kind of sheltered from that. And so, you know, again, I think it prepared me for this experience now as the head coach at UNCA, so I'm in debt to them for preparing me for this.
You came back, like I said, after Coach Torbett stepped down in the spring of 2011, and was it a tough decision to come back?
I don't think it was a tough decision. I think it was the right time. You know, I've always loved Asheville. You know, I'm an alumni here, and to come back to where I had put 8 years of my life and of the experiences and coaching other alumni, I think it wasn't that hard of a decision. I think it comes down to really it was the right time. You know, it was the right timing. You know, I had a lot of alumni themselves call and say, you need to take this job. You need to put your name in the hat. And so, you know, to hear it from them it was one of the main reasons as well, you know, to kind of try to carry on the legacy of what UNC Asheville volleyball is.
And we're talking about alumni and some of the alumni calling you. You married an alumnus and everything.
Yeah.
Natalie, Natalie Steffen, who played here in the late '90s, and you got to know her after you got here and stuff.
Yeah.
A couple years after she graduated, and I know that it was a thrill for her to come back as well. She's from Waynesville, right?
Yes, it's a thrill. I think, you know, this is, again, she grew up here at the university. I mean, this is kind of like our second home. And so for us to be able to be here, to be in the community, to share with our own children, you know, eventually they'll get these concepts of, you know, you went to school here and this is kind of home, and, you know, I think that's great. You know, it's awesome. It's a great opportunity for us.
And it's certainly a family affair with Natalie as her sister. Her older sister, Lisa, had a great career here, member of our Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
We're trying to get in the Big South Hall of Fame, a great player on 2 championship teams back in 91 and 92, and certainly had a very successful career. So you definitely have got some great family with the Bulldog volleyball, don't you?
Yes, and trust me, it's a lot of pressure. I feel that kind of pressure, you know. My sister-in-law played and was so successful here, but you know, at the same time, it's refreshing that she's fully supportive of this program, fully supportive of me as a head coach, but yeah, there's a lot of pressure. You know, she can still say I won a championship, and I'm not quite there yet, but you know, we're working towards it.
Fred, this is your 3rd year as we talk about. Your first year, you know, you got hired a little bit late and everything, and really only had 9 players. Did a nice job getting to 15 and 14 and getting to the semifinals of the conference tournament. And last year, a bit of a transition year as you had to replace some key players. Went 12 and 20, but 7-7 in the league, and they had to play a lot of freshmen, and at times we paid for that. Right. But your kids kept on coming, got upset High Point in the semifinals of the Big South tournament, and lost a close match to Coastal. But I know that last year, though the 1-loss record isn't what you wanted, I know that there was a lot of progress at last year's club.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think for that group to be in your first official recruiting class, I think there's a lot of you know, the kids don't know exactly what the expectations is. They're newcomers to the league. You know, I think it was different from the year before where everybody had already played a few years in the league. They knew where competition was and what level to play exactly. So it was different. Even though we had 9 players, we had 9 players that were kind of, you could almost call them veterans because they had been in the league and they knew what the expectations were. But in last year it was completely different. You know, you're inserting new setter, new outside hitter, new right side, new defensive specialist, and so you know they had that transition growth period to go through. But I think it came through. I mean, we had some great victories. We beat Liberty at home. We beat Coastal at home. You know, and upset High Point. You know, and I think I take those positives from that season. It'd be very easy to look at 12 and 20 and look at the whole thing as a failure, but I look at it as a success. You know, anytime that you can go deep into the tournament with a group of freshmen, half of them out there, I think it's a great year.
You went 5-1 in 5-set matches. Lost the first one of the year, ETSU,
Yep.
and then won the next 5, including a thrilling first one of the year against Western Carolina, down 2-0 and came back and won. And Liberty, Presbyterian, it was just almost, if you came to a Bulldog home volleyball match, he was going to go 5, and Coach Santos was going to have a victory celebration afterwards and stuff and everything.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously it's very exciting. It's great to win. I think, for the kids, it's a huge relief, because they believe in the work that they're doing, most of all. That we're on the right track, we're going to win eventually. I think it's kudos to them. They believe in what we're doing. They came every day and worked hard. They didn't look at what the overall picture was. They looked at, okay, we're 0-0, let's play one match at a time. Try to get the wins that we can. Let's make it to the conference tournament and try to do the damage there. And, that's how we lived.
This year's team, I know you have to feel excited about. Still young, you still got a lot of young players and stuff, but you do have some good seniors, and starting with Anna Moore, the transfer from NC State, who's been a second-team all-conference performer, preseason all-conference here in the Big South, and I know you expect a big year from her.
Yeah, I think, Anna's accomplishments speak for themselves. She's a leader on the court. We do expect big things from her. But I think Anna would give up all the individual accolades to reach the ultimate prize. She doesn't put herself on any kind of pedestal. She works hard just like anybody else, and she most of the time just wants to be like anybody else. Don't make me better than you are. Don't look at the hype. I'm here just like you are, trying to accomplish things for the team. So I expect a lot of things from her, but at the same time, I treat her like everybody else.
Your setter, Katie Davis, who you talked about a little bit earlier, who was a freshman last year, to throw her in the fire, and she did a nice job making the all-freshman team. And then tell us about, she had an interesting summer, and she got to play some volleyball overseas like you did.
Yes, she got selected to play the A2 USA national team. And they had tournaments in Italy and Slovenia, and she shared time with the starting setter for Illinois, which was an amazing experience for her, and to play with players from bigger schools, typically your Big Ten, your Pac-12, teams that we don't really interact on a day-to-day basis, but Katie was able to hold her own and play, and against international competition, which is even higher level. I think she really enjoyed the experience. I think it was great for her personal growth as a setter. We could tell that on the first days back from preseason that she's just setting at an unbelievable level. But again, now she's back with our girls and she's focusing on that. But again, I think that experience for her will probably keep coming. And I think it's great for our school to get that kind of exposure in a bigger kind of international arena that really exalts, hey, UNC Asheville's got players of the caliber. Yes, we do. So again, that was a great experience for her.
How good can the Bulldogs be in 2013 in your opinion?
I think the Bulldogs can be as good as number one. I think we certainly have had those conversations with the players that we need to put ourselves, and we need to see ourselves in those top spots and not really see our team as kind of middle of the road or the team struggling to get in the tournament. I think we really need to start visualizing ourselves as a higher program. And obviously we can draw on previous experience. We've beat Liberty, we've beat the Coastal, we've beat the High Points, we've beat the Winthrops. We deserve to be there, but we need to work to be there. But certainly that's the conversations we've been having during preseasons, that we need to put ourselves in that mix. We need to see ourselves as a very good team, So hopefully the kids are absorbing that message and that'll come out.
All right, Frederico, thanks so much for stopping by. We look forward to a great volleyball season.
Thank you.
All right, that's head volleyball coach Frederico Santos. We'll be back with more right after this.
You'll find them inside each huddle, on every sideline, in every classroom, on each campus, from our neighborhoods to the corner office. Student athletes from the Big South Conference, serving in roles they've trained for all their lives. Leaders. The Big South Conference, developing leaders through athletics. Learn more at BigSouthSports.com.
Welcome back to Bulldog Update. I'm Mike Gore, and I'm now joined by head track and field and cross-country coach Jesse Norman. Jesse, thanks so much for stopping by to talk to us.
No problem. Thank you for inviting me.
Jesse, this is your 6th year in charge of both programs, or actually all 6 programs when you come right down to it, cross-country, indoor track and field, and outdoor track and field for both the men and women here at UNC Asheville. And we're getting ready to start cross-country season. And for both teams, you made some big strides last year, getting up to 5th place. And I know you want to maybe go a little higher this year in the Big South Conference.
Yep. We'll always want to get a little bit higher. Last year was a big learning experience. We had a bunch of freshmen, especially on the men's side, so getting them that experience on learning what it takes to compete at this level, we think we brought most of them back, so we're pretty excited about this year. So.
Let's talk about you for a little bit, Jesse. Tell us your background. You had a great career at Western Carolina. Just tell us where you're from originally and about your career at Western Carolina.
Well, I grew up outside of Raleigh. Went to Fuquay-Varina High School, little rinky-dink cow farm place area. It was a great experience. I loved it. After graduating there, wanted to really look for something different and ended up going to the mountains in North Carolina over at Western for school. Basically, I wanted to get as far away from home as possible with staying in state because my parents were like, you can't afford it. So ended up there, and it was great. Loved it. It was exactly what I needed at that time. Did some pretty good things, had a really good freshman year, and then kind of felt like I knew a little bit more than the coach and kind of went in and out from there, and then ended up listening to the coach and ran really well my junior year in cross country. Won the individual conference championship during cross season. Still to this day the only one to have done that on the men's side, so I was pretty proud of that, and finished out doing some pretty good things here and there. And then graduated, took a couple years off of school, taught for 1 year over in Robbinsville. That was a very interesting experience, teaching over there in the far western part of the state and everything. It was great, loved it, but really kind of gave me the idea I really want to be a college coach and do coaching as a profession. So took some time off after a year doing that to through hike the Appalachian Trail with the lady I was dating at the time. We ended up getting married. Used that as a trial run, so it was kind of interesting. So we were like, if we can stand each other for 6 months in a tent and being all nasty, then we can probably survive a marriage together. So did that, and after we got off the trail, started volunteering and then GA and over at Western Carolina for the last couple of years, and until I got the job here.
Let's talk a little about that Appalachian Trail trip, because that's always been fascinating to me and everything. How long were you on? You and Melanie, your wife, and everything at the time. You all were dating and stuff. But how long were you on that? And my goodness, tell us how far you went with that.
We started July 4th. Took a bus from Fayetteville, North Carolina, actually up to Maine, which was 24 hours on a bus, and wow, it's very, very interesting. Never want to do that again. But it was a great experience. We started July 4th up in Katahdin, and we decided to do it southbound, which is non-traditional. Most people will go from Georgia to Maine, and we decided to go Maine to Georgia to have more of a personal experience, just the two of us. You know, out of the trail, usually about 10% of the people that start in Maine, or do the whole trail in a particular year, start in Maine, going down south, and of those 10%, only 10% of those usually finish. And so we were like, well, that'd be a good challenge to see if we can do that. And us being competitive people, we were like, well, let's try it out. And so we started started July 4th that weekend, and then ended up finishing up in like right a couple of days before Christmas, actually.
Wow.
So it was a long time, about 6 months. I think our longest hiking day was like 30 miles.
Wow.
It was pretty intense. It was pretty cool. There was a lot of trying times, but it was a blast.
Would you do it again?
Maybe. Yeah, maybe. I would probably rather do the PCT now over in the Pacific Crest Trail over in California and Oregon, that area. Try something different.
Jesse, your team, I talked about it at the top and stuff. Tell us, on the women's side, you've got some good runners back, some veterans that I know you expect some big things out of this year.
Well, starting up at the top, Melanie Coolez, fifth-year senior for us, has only got cross-country this year, and she's one of the top runners in the conference. She's healthy and on point and ready to go. I mean, she's been all conference numerous times. got a couple top 5 performances for us and stuff like that. If she's on point, she's ready to go, then she's one of the best runners in the conference. We truly feel like that she can be up in that top, 1-2 spot type deal. And after workout yesterday, yeah, she's back to where she was at her freshman, sophomore year. So we're pretty excited about that. And then bring back some of the upperclassmen, freshmen from last year especially, Aaron Dalton, Kelsey Rubinio, bringing some of those ladies back or be something that would be huge for us. They were pretty big for us last year, and we're expecting bigger things than being a year seasoned, everything like that. We brought in some really good freshmen this past year, Amy Castle from Ohio, and Sarah Heisner from Florida, and then Katie Gamble from Raleigh area, Millbrook High School. And I think Katie's going to actually end up being a dark horse, probably surprise a lot of people. And so, but Amy, Sarah, Katie, that whole group right there, they're going to be pretty impressive to watch over the next few years.
And I know the training is going well because I see a lot of your runners throughout, and every time I see them, there's a smile on their face,
Yep.
talking about how good training is going and stuff. And I'm sure it's very competitive. So you definitely have a chance to have a good season this year, don't you?
Yeah, we feel like it. Preseason rankings came out, and we're tied right now for 5th on the women's side, and that's probably about where everybody should predict us right now. But I feel like we're definitely a better squad than that. And hopefully we can kind of get in there and break into that top 3. It'll be tough, but I think we got the people to be able to do it, and the depth really, which is where we're going to notice a huge difference this year.
On the men's side, you really made steady improvement. Last year, going up to 5th place, highest finish for the Bulldog cross-country team in about 10 seasons. So I know you're proud of that and stuff. And how much better can this team be this year?
I think we'll be pretty good. It's going to hinge on a couple people. We got one of our top guys, was a freshman last year. We're going to be redshirting him. And the other one we're trying to bring back from an injury. He suffered during the summertime. But we brought in a couple really good freshmen that I think are going to be really good. In fact, our #1 guy right now is a freshman on paper just from our time trial. So I think we're going to be really good. I'm really excited about the sophomore class. We got the 5th place last year basically on the back of them. I mean, we had one junior, sophomore actually, that was in our top 7, 2 sophomores actually, and the rest were all freshmen. So we're pretty excited to see those freshmen grow up and be able to handle the Big South Conference competition a little bit better. So a couple of the influx of the new freshmen, we think we'll be pretty good this year.
But you do have some veterans, and I'm talking about Kevin Paradise, who's been your top runner the past couple of years, and I know you expect a good year from him, don't you?
Oh yeah, he's one of the workhorses on the team. He's one of the guys. He may not win every workout or be at the top end up there, but when it comes time for the championship season, he's on point, ready to go. I remember last year at Winthrop, we were kind of talking to everybody about making sure you get out in a good position and being aggressive. Set your finishing position up through the first 5K, and we come around the first mile, and Kevin's leading the field by like 20 meters, and that's just who he is. He's got to go out and get after it from the very beginning. He doesn't have those wheels to be able to kick down anybody, so he's got to just pound away at it from the very beginning.
One of the things that you've done since you've been here, and it's been wonderful, is that you've had a chance to have some home meets. Now, obviously, UNC Asheville doesn't have a home cross-country course, but you found one the past 2 years at Asheville Christian Academy. It's on September the 14th, and it won't just be the Bulldogs running. It's a cross-country carnival, and I know that has to be exciting to host that. I know last year was a good start, and this year's going to be bigger and better, isn't it?
Oh yeah, definitely. Last year was a good year for me and Adam to kind of figure out the kinks and get everything worked out and see what the course could really hold and what we could do with it. We made some adjustments to the course for the men's course this year. Women's course is the same. A lot more competition. I think last year we ended up having like 3 to 4 teams on each side. This year, right now, we're at 11 counting us. So a big increase with probably about 6 conference schools that are going to be in there right now that have confirmed. So should be a lot better. We're doing a high school race with it too. We've got about 7 high schools at this point.
Wow,
working on a couple other ones. So trying to really blow it up, make Asheville be kind of like a destination cross-country place for everybody. Everybody wants to come up here to train and to run, and if we can find a flat course, which is out there at Asheville Christian Academy, people love it even more. So.
And that's September 14th. What time?
Men will get started off at 9 o'clock. So we're going to do college men, then followed by college women, and then high school boys, high school girls. All
right, Jesse, thanks so much for stopping by to talk to us, and good luck this year.
Yep, thank you.
That's head track and field and cross-country coach Jesse Norman. Remember, the Bulldogs have a home meet this year on September the 14th out at Asheville Christian Academy.